The scream cut through the dining room. His mother convulsed on the floor, white foam at her lips. He dropped to his knees. Mama. Every head turned to the waitress, the one pointing. His fiancée's champagne glass shattered on the marble. She's lying, the fiancé whispered. Bodyguards reached for weapons. Doors slammed shut. The waitress didn't move, just kept pointing. I saw her put powder in the soup. He stood, looked at his fiancée, then at the waitress. Prove it. One of them was about to die. The question was, who? Won-sik's story haunts me because he had everything except the one thing that mattered, his mother's approval. And he traded that for a woman who made him feel modern. I'm curious, have you ever chosen someone's opinion over the person who actually raised you? Drop your location below. The accusation tears through the private dining room like a blade. 68-year-old Baek Suk-ja clutches her throat. Her chopsticks clatter against porcelain as her body seizes violently. Her eyes widen in terror. White foam bubbles at her lips. Time fractures. Korean Mafia boss Shim Won-sik drops to his knees. His hands that have strangled rivals. Hands that have signed death warrants. Now trembling as they reach for his convulsing mother. His voice cracks as he screams her name. Amma. Amma. No response. Around them, the world explodes into chaos. Bodyguards freeze mid-motion. Hands instinctively moving toward concealed weapons. Crystal glasses shatter. Someone gasps in horror. Someone steps back in terror. And there she stands. Lauren Walsh. Draped in her custom Dior gown, champagne glass still raised. Her face drained of color, but her chin lifted. Calculating even in this moment of exposure. Her hands shake, not with shock but with something darker. The tremor of someone whose meticulously constructed plan is unraveling in real time. But every eye in the room turns to her. Nia Morrison. The Black American waitress in her pressed uniform. Arm extended. Finger pointing. Body shaking violently. She knows what she's just done. In Seoul's criminal underworld, you don't accuse a mafia boss's white fiancé and live to see sunrise. Shim Won-sik slowly lifts his gaze from his dying mother. His eyes. Killer's eyes that have watched men beg for mercy. Eyes that have ended lives with a single glance. Now lock onto Nia. In that frozen instant, she signed her own death warrant. Unless she's telling the truth. In that suspended moment, power, filial duty, betrayal, and a mother's life hang by a single breath. At 42 years old, Shim Won-sik controlled an empire that most people pretended didn't exist. Seoul's underground emperor. Gambling operations across 3 districts. Protection rackets that stretched from Gangnam to Itaewon. Smuggling networks that moved everything the law said shouldn't move. Hundreds of millions flowing through accounts that would never see daylight. His tailored Tom Ford suits cost more than most people earned in a year. His penthouse fortress overlooked the Han River from the 47th floor, bulletproof glass and armed guards on every entrance. His fleet of black Mercedes moved through Seoul's streets like shadows, untouchable and feared. These were the symbols of power that money could buy. The kind of power that made men lower their eyes when he entered a room. But every morning at 5 a.m., before his world woke to violence and negotiations, before the phone started ringing with problems that needed solving and rivals that needed handling, Shim Won-sik did one thing that would have shocked every enemy who'd ever feared him. He called his mother. Just to hear her voice. Just to know she was safe. Just to hear her say, "Eat something proper today, Won-sik-ah." Not just coffee. Baek Suk-ja. The woman who raised him alone after his father's execution when Won-sik was 7. The woman who cleaned office buildings at night while he slept bundled in her winter coat because they couldn't afford heat. The woman who taught him that honor mattered more than money, even as poverty ground them down year after year. She lived in a modest apartment in Mapogu. 3 rooms. Simple furniture. Windows that looked out onto a neighborhood playground instead of a river view. Won-sik had bought her the apartment outright, then offered her a penthouse next to his. She'd refused. Too high up, she'd said, touching his face. I like to keep my feet close to the ground where real life happens. His empire rested on violence, on fear, on the willingness to do what softer men wouldn't. But his foundation was her sacrifice. Every choice she'd made so he could survive. Every night she'd worked so he could sleep. It confused his men. Won-sik still sought his mother's approval like he was still that 7-year-old boy. Still visited every Sunday without fail for her cooking. Still listened when she spoke. Or at least, he used to. In boardrooms, he was feared. At his mother's table, eating her homemade kimchi jjigae, he was still her boy. Power built on violence. Held together by filial love. Until the day it almost destroyed him. For years, Sukja had suggested suitable Korean women. Daughters of respectable families. Women who understood their world, who knew what it meant to love a man who lived in shadows. He'd refused them all. Too traditional, Yama. Too provincial. I need someone who understands both worlds. What he meant but would never say. Someone who made him feel sophisticated. Modern. Not just a gangster's son who got lucky. Lauren Walsh entered his life at a high-end charity gala in Gangnam. The kind of event Won-sik attended to launder his reputation, to be seen with Seoul's elite. She was everything he thought he wanted. White. Educated at Yale. Speaking Korean with a charming American accent. Working in international finance with credentials that opened doors his money couldn't. She approached him with confidence. No fear in her eyes. You're Shim Won-sik. I've heard you're a man who gets things done. Their courtship was calculated on her part. Intoxicating on his. She didn't flinch at mentions of his business. She attended his events in stunning gowns. She made him feel legitimate, like he was more than his violent past. You're so much more sophisticated than they give you credit for, she'd say. And he'd believe every word. The first meeting with Sukja should have told him everything. Lauren arrived in designer everything. Chanel suit. Hermes bag. Louboutin heels clicking against modest tile. She spoke formal Korean she'd clearly practiced, bowing at exactly the right angle. She complimented the apartment. Such a cozy space. So authentic. But her eyes betrayed her. Won-sik saw it but chose to ignore it. The way her gaze catalogued everything. Dismissing. Calculating. Sukja served her signature jjigae. 3 generations of recipe. The same stew that had sustained Won-sik through childhood poverty. Lauren barely touched it. One polite bite, then set down her spoon. I'm watching my figure for Won-sik, she'd said with a practiced smile. Western metabolism, you know. The temperature dropped. After Lauren left, Sukja spoke carefully. She is beautiful, my son. But beauty can be a mask. I saw no warmth in her eyes when she looked at you. Only when she looked at your watch. Won-sik bristled. The words landed like accusations. You're being traditional, Yama. She's different from the women you know. That doesn't make her wrong. The words came out sharper than he intended. Harsher. Sukja fell silent. Her face closed. And in that silence, the distance between them began to grow. Won-sik told himself his mother was being unreasonable. That she couldn't understand modern relationships. That Lauren represented everything he'd worked to become: sophisticated, international, beyond the limitations of his violent origins. He told himself these things because believing them was easier than admitting his mother might be right. Because admitting she was right meant admitting he was choosing status over substance. Image over truth. A woman who made him feel important over the woman who'd made him who he was. The distance grew wider with each passing week. Each dismissed warning. Each choice to believe Lauren's carefully constructed facade over his mother's hard-won wisdom. The engagement announcement changed everything. Lauren moved into his penthouse within a week. Immediately redecorating. We need to make this less traditional. More international. His mother's gifts disappeared into storage. Calligraphy scrolls. Family photos. The shrine to his ancestors. all packed away like embarrassing relics. Sunday dinners became exercises in tension. Lauren arrived late, checked her phone constantly, picked at the food. Kimchi is so high in sodium, she'd mention. Won-sik needs to think about his health. Each comment accumulated like snow before an avalanche. Uncle Jae-sung pulled Won-sik aside. Your mother hasn't been sleeping. She keeps asking if you're ashamed of our family. I'm giving her everything. Everything except what she wants, to be heard. The breaking point came 3 months before the wedding. Sukja had spent all day preparing Won-sik's childhood favorites. Every dish a memory. Lauren arrived and immediately suggested ordering from a French restaurant. This is so much work for Yama. Let's give her a break. Sukja's face fell. Won-sik saw it and said nothing. Later, she spoke to him alone. That woman doesn't respect our food. Soon she won't respect our family. Then she won't respect you. You're being paranoid. Not everyone shows love the way you do. Love has no culture, Won-sik. Love is love. And I see no love in that woman's eyes. The distance became a chasm. Lauren's behavior escalated. She joined business meetings uninvited, dismissed his associates as old school, suggested Sukja might be more comfortable in a care facility with proper staff. So she's not lonely. Uncle Jae-sung investigated quietly. What he discovered made his blood cold. $4.2 million in gambling debts, international syndicates, mounting interest, escalating threats. He presented the evidence. This woman sees you as an ATM with a heartbeat. Your mother is the only person standing between her and complete financial control. Won-sik exploded. My mother has poisoned all of you against her. Lauren loves me. She chose you precisely because of who you are and what you're worth. Won-sik banned him from future gatherings. Sukja made one final attempt. She visited the penthouse, found Lauren alone. My son is precious to me. If you truly love him, I will support you. But if you're using him... Lauren's mask slipped. You're the one using him, old woman. Making him feel guilty for outgrowing this provincial life. I'm his future. You're his past. Sukja left in tears. Tried to tell Won-sik. She was probably just stressed, Yama. Wedding planning is overwhelming. She called me old woman, Won-sik. Like I was nothing. You're being oversensitive. Lauren would never. You believe a woman you've known 2 years over the mother who gave you life? The silence was answer enough. The wedding celebration dinner was Lauren's idea. Let's show everyone we're a united family. Sukja almost declined. But she came, hoping for one more chance to reach her son. She didn't know she was walking into her own execution. Nia Morrison had been in Seoul for 8 months. Invisibility had become her survival strategy. As a black woman working service industry in Korea, being seen meant being scrutinized. Her appearance, her accent, her very presence questioned. She worked at Moonlight Garden, an exclusive restaurant catering to Seoul's elite criminals disguised as businessmen. The pay was decent. The tips excellent. The first rule simple: see nothing, say nothing, survive everything. Tonight's private party was in the Orchid Room. Shim Won-sik's pre-wedding celebration. Nia had been specifically requested because Lauren insisted on international service standards. Nia noticed immediately how the dynamics worked. Won-sik at the head, powerful and commanding. His mother, Baek Sukja, quiet and watchful in simple hanbok. Lauren Walsh, stunning in white, positioned as the future matriarch. But Nia saw what others missed. Lauren's performance was flawless for everyone else, but when Won-sik turned away, her face would shift. The smile would fade. The eyes would harden. When she looked at Sukja, there was something cold, calculating. Sukja had brought her signature jjigae. 3 generations of recipe. She served it herself, spooning it into her son's bowl first. Won-sik tasted it and his whole face softened. Yama, this is perfect. Just like when I was young. For a moment, Sukja smiled. Won-sik took a phone call. Urgent business. Stepped away. His bodyguards followed. That's when it happened. Nia was refilling water glasses when she saw Lauren's hand slip into her designer clutch. The movement was practiced. Casual. But what emerged was a small vial. Time slowed. Lauren glanced around, checking sightlines, then reached for Sukja's bowl. The powder fell like snow into the jjigae. A twist of her spoon. The vial disappeared. 3 seconds. Maybe 4. Every survival instinct screamed at Nia. This isn't your business. Your mother in Atlanta needs the money. You're black, foreign, and disposable here. They will kill you. But she watched Sukja lift her spoon. Watched her take the first bite of poisoned jjigae made with love. Stay quiet. This isn't your problem. Sukja's face began to change. Confusion first. Then something wrong. Won-sik. Her voice was distant. Her hand started to tremble. The spoon clattered against the bowl. You're nobody to these people. Sukja's breathing changed. Shallow. Rapid. Her eyes widened. Won-sik. Louder now. Desperate. Won-sik was still on the phone, back turned. Lauren watched with dead eyes, performing concern. Sukja clutched her throat. The convulsions started. Her body seizing. Foam appearing at her lips. And Nia Morrison, who had survived by being invisible, who had crossed an ocean to send money home, who had learned that silence was survival, made a choice. Your fiancé put something in your mom's food. The scream tore from her throat like thunder. Her arm shot out, finger pointing directly at Lauren Walsh. The room froze. Every eye turned to her. Every bodyguard's hand moved toward a weapon. Shim Won-sik spun around, phone dropping from his hand. His mother was convulsing on the floor, foam at her lips, dying. And a black waitress was accusing his white fiancé of murder. Nia knew she'd signed her own death warrant. But Sukja was still breathing. Seoul National University Hospital ICU. Won-sik paced outside the surgical wing like a caged animal. His mother's life hung by threads while doctors fought against military-grade poison. For the first time in 20 years, Shim Won-sik prayed. To ancestors. To gods. To anything that would listen. Take anything. My empire, my life. Just not her. Not like this. Dr. Kim emerged after 3 hours. The poison was aconitine. From wolfsbane. Deliberately concentrated. Another 10 minutes and her heart would have stopped beyond revival. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. In the basement of Moonlight Garden, Nia sat zip-tied to a chair, surrounded by Won-sik's men. Her hands shook, but her voice stayed steady. I saw what I saw. Uncle Jae-sung interrogated her himself. You've accused a boss's woman. In our world, that's death. I know. Then why? Because watching someone die when you could have spoken, that's a different kind of death. Meanwhile, Won-sik's security team pulled every angle of surveillance footage. The Orchid Room had no cameras, but the hallways did. The evidence built like a prosecutor's dream. Lauren arriving early for decoration inspection. Security footage showed her planting something in her clutch. The vial. Financial forensics revealed the web. $4.2 million in gambling debts to 3 international syndicates. Payment schedules impossible on her finance salary. Threatening messages. Final warning. Deliver or we deliver you to the Han River. Her phone records. Searches for fast-acting poisons, aconitine symptoms, suspicious death investigation. Text messages to her sister in Boston. Just need to survive another 6 months. Once the old woman's gone and the wedding happens, I'll have access to everything. He's so blinded by wanting to seem sophisticated. And the security footage from dinner itself. Lauren's hand in her clutch. The fluid motion. The casual mixing. The dead-eyed watch as Sukja took the first bite. When they brought Lauren in, still in her designer gown, she denied everything with practiced outrage. This is insane. That waitress is lying. Won-sik, you know I love your mother. Won-sik watched the footage in silence. Frame by frame. His fiancée poisoning his mother with casual ease. Why? His voice was barely a whisper. Lauren's mask cracked. Because she was in the way. You think I spent 2 years playing dutiful daughter-in-law to keep catering to a traditional old woman who made you feel ashamed of modernizing? She made you weak, Won-sik. Always running back to her approval. Always putting her opinion above mine. She's my mother. She was an obstacle. To us. To our future. To the empire we could have built without dead weight. The room fell silent. Uncle Jae-sung handed Won-sik a folder. Everything. The debts, the threats, the plan. She was going to wait 6 months after marriage, then poison Niyama during a family dinner and blame it on age and health. Collect the inheritance, pay off the debts, and keep you as her financial puppet. Won-sik looked at the woman he'd almost married. You called my mother deadweight. I called it like I saw it. The woman who sacrificed everything so I could survive. Who taught me honor when the world taught me violence. Who tried to warn me about you and I. His voice broke. I didn't listen. I chose you over her. A nurse burst through the doors. She's awake. She's asking for her son. Won-sik ran. Wait. Lauren had $4.2 million in gambling debts. Uncle Jae-sung showed Won-sik the proof. And he still banned his uncle from family gatherings for telling the truth. Am I wrong for thinking that's not just pride, that's shame? Would you have believed the evidence or your fiancé? Tell me in the comments because I need to know if I'm being too harsh. Sukja survived, but barely. 3 weeks of recovery. Her body weakened, but her spirit still fierce. When she finally could speak clearly, her first words were, "Where is that brave girl?" The underground tribunal convened in a warehouse in Gangnam. Won-sik's council of 12. The lieutenants who ran his empire. Lauren knelt in the center, zip-tied, the evidence projected on screens around her. The verdict was swift and unanimous. Won-sik delivered it himself with cold finality. You tried to kill my mother. In our world, there's only one response to that. Lauren's removal was handled by Won-sik's most trusted men. The details were never spoken of again. But then came the second question. The council turned to Nia Morrison, brought in and forced to kneel beside where Lauren had been. Lee Sung-ho, Won-sik's oldest lieutenant, spoke. The waitress. She publicly accused your woman in a room full of witnesses. She showed disrespect to your authority. She made you look foolish. She saved my mother's life. She made you lose face. If we let this go unpunished, it shows weakness. Others will think they can question your judgment. Uncle Jae-sung added quietly. There's also the matter of her being a witness to our business discussions. She knows too much. The council wanted Nia dead. The clean solution. Eliminate the outsider who'd seen too much. Restore Won-sik's reputation as a man whose decisions couldn't be questioned by mere staff. Nia knelt silently, hands zip-tied, head raised. She wasn't crying. Wasn't begging. She'd known this was coming. Won-sik looked at her for a long moment. This woman who had everything to lose and nothing to gain. Who screamed truth when silence would have saved her. Then he looked at his council. Men who'd followed him for 20 years. Who were advising him based on the rules he'd taught them. Cut her loose. Boss. I said cut her loose. Won-sik's voice carried the kind of authority that ended discussions. This woman saw what I refused to see. She risked her life to save my mother when I was too blind to protect her myself. She has more honor than anyone in this room who stayed silent about Lauren's debts because you didn't want to challenge my judgment. The warehouse went silent. She showed disrespect? No. She showed courage. The kind of integrity we claim to value but rarely demonstrate. If we kill her for telling the truth, then what are we? Just animals with expensive suits. Lee Sung-ho tried again. The men will say you've gone soft. Then let them say it. Won-sik turned to face his entire council. My mother almost died because I was more concerned about appearing modern and sophisticated than listening to her wisdom. I chose a woman who made me feel legitimate over the woman who actually made me who I am. I ignored every warning because admitting I was wrong felt worse than being right. He walked to Nia and cut her zip ties himself. This woman saved my mother's life. Touch her and you answer to me. Anyone who has a problem with this can leave my organization tonight with their life and their savings. But they leave. No one moved. Won-sik helped Nia to her feet. You should have died for what you did. In our world, that's the rule. But you were willing to die to save someone you didn't know. That's not weakness. That's strength I've forgotten I once had. Sukja came home after 3 weeks. Weak, but alive. The first thing she did was ask to see Nia Morrison. They met in Sukja's modest apartment. Nia brought flowers, awkward and uncertain. Sukja took her hands. You saved this old woman's life. How do I repay such a debt? You don't, Harabiaji. I couldn't stay silent. You risked everything. For a stranger. Tears filled Sukja's eyes. My own son didn't see what you saw. Won-sik, standing in the doorway, heard this. The words cut deeper than any blade. That night, sitting by his mother's bedside, Won-sik finally let himself break. For how close he'd come to losing her. For how his pride had almost cost her life. Uncle Jae-sung found him there. The men are talking. Some say you're becoming weak. I almost lost my mother because I valued a white woman's opinion over hers. Because I was ashamed of being seen as a traditional Korean son. And now? Now I choose differently. The changes came deliberately. Won-sik moved into an apartment in his mother's building. He resumed weekly family dinners, clearing his calendar no matter what business demanded. He publicly acknowledged his mother's wisdom to his organization. The most difficult conversation came one evening as Sukja prepared dinner. Won-sik sat at her kitchen table. Yama, I need to ask you something. What is it, my son? You warned me about her over and over. And I chose her. I chose her opinion, her sophistication over you. Over everything you taught me. Sukja stopped cooking. Turned to face him. Because you were ashamed of me. The words hit like a physical blow. I saw it when Lauren dismissed our food, our traditions, our language. You wouldn't defend them. You'd just get quiet. Like I embarrassed you. Yama, no. Yes. You wanted a beautiful white fiancé who seemed modern. I was too traditional. Too much of the old world you were trying to leave behind. I'm sorry. God, Yama, I'm so sorry. I don't need your apology. I need you to understand something. She sat across from him. That woman almost killed me because you gave her permission by showing her I didn't matter. When you dismissed my warnings, you told her I was expendable. The truth broke something in him. Sukja took his hands. The same hands that had built an empire. The same hands that had almost let her die. You were more than enough, my son. But you'll never be enough if you keep measuring yourself by other people's standards. Lauren represented a world that had always made you feel small. But real sophistication isn't about speaking English or drinking French wine. It's about knowing who you are and honoring where you come from. I do know. Now. Then show me. Not with words. With choices. Learning that real power came from honoring those who'd made him who he was. Nia Morrison couldn't go back to her normal life. After screaming the truth in a room full of Seoul's criminal elite, her face was known. Her name was whispered. Her presence was marked. She'd lost her job at Moonlight Garden. The owners couldn't risk association with the scandal. Her tiny Goshawan apartment felt exposed. Dangerous. She couldn't sleep without checking the locks 3 times, jumping at every footstep in the hallway. Won-sik found her 3 days after the tribunal, sitting in a cafe near Seoul Station with all her belongings in 2 suitcases. I'm booking a flight home, she said when he sat across from her. Back to Atlanta. It's not safe for me here. You're right. It's not. He slid an envelope across the table. This is a new identity. Legal documentation. A secured apartment in Gangnam. A bank account with enough money to support you for 5 years while you figure out what comes next. Nia stared at the envelope. I don't want your money. It's not a gift. It's a debt. Won-sik's voice was quiet. You saved my mother's life. You risked everything when you owed us nothing. This isn't payment. You can't pay for what you did. This is me trying to ensure your courage doesn't cost you your future. People will talk. They'll say I'm your. Let them talk. Anyone who disrespects you disrespects me. I've made that clear to everyone who matters. Nia opened the envelope. Saw the documentation. The numbers in the bank account. The keys to an apartment. Her hands shook. Why are you doing this? Because you're the kind of person I should have been. You saw something wrong and you acted, knowing it would cost you everything. I saw something wrong, my mother's warnings, the evidence of Lauren's character, and I did nothing because it would have cost me my pride. He met her eyes directly. I'm trying to learn from you. The least I can do is make sure you survive teaching me that lesson. They met occasionally after that. Not as boss and employee. Not as criminal and witness. But as two people bound by a moment that changed everything. Nia started teaching English and cultural education to foreign workers in Seoul, helping others navigate the invisibility she'd experienced. Won-sik funded the program quietly, never asking for recognition. One evening, months later, Nia asked him, "Do you regret it? Protecting me? Your men still whisper about you going soft. Every day I used to regret looking weak. Now the only thing I regret is all the years I spent worrying about looking strong instead of being honorable. There's a difference. It took almost losing my mother to learn it." Nia smiled. She raised a good man. He just forgot for a while. She raised the man I'm trying to become again. They sat in comfortable silence. Two unlikely allies. One who'd risked everything to speak truth. One who'd finally learned to listen. Seoul glittered around them. A city of millions. But in this moment, only two mattered. The woman who'd chosen courage over survival. And the man. 6 months after Sukja's poisoning, Won-sik's empire looked different from the inside, even if outsiders couldn't see the changes. He restructured his operations. Family first. Empire second. A radical reordering in a world where power came before everything. His men tested him. Rivals saw potential weakness. A territorial dispute erupted with a competing organization. The kind traditionally settled with violence and bodies. His lieutenants demanded retaliation. "They're calling us soft. They're saying you've lost your edge since the incident with your mother." Sukja overheard this discussion. Later, she asked him, "Will people die because I lived?" The question haunted him. At the next council meeting, Won-sik made an announcement. "We're negotiating. Not because I'm afraid of violence. Because I'm tired of pretending violence is the only answer. For 20 years, I've built this empire on fear and blood. It's powerful, but it's exhausting. And it's not the legacy I want to leave my mother." Lee Sung-ho protested. "They'll see this as weakness. Then they'll be wrong. It takes more strength to negotiate than to kill. Any fool with a gun can end a life. It takes wisdom to build something that lasts." He looked around the room. "My mother has that wisdom. I'm finally ready to listen." The negotiations were tense, complicated, and ultimately successful. Won-sik's reputation didn't crumble. It evolved. He became known not as a boss who'd gone soft, but as one who'd learned strategy beyond simple violence. But the real changes happened in smaller moments. Sunday dinners became sacred. Won-sik's phone stayed off. His attention stayed present. Sukja cooked, he helped, and they talked. Really talked. When business associates made dismissive comments about traditional Korean culture, Won-sik corrected them publicly. "My mother's wisdom saved my life. Anyone who disrespects our traditions disrespects me." He funded a foundation supporting children of criminals. So they have choices I never did. Sukja's signature jjigae recipe became the foundation symbol. Nia Morrison helped design the program. The most important test came on a Wednesday afternoon. Won-sik was in a critical meeting. Negotiations with international partners worth millions. His phone buzzed with a text from his mother. "Are you free this evening? I'm making your favorite dinner." In the old days, he would have texted back, maybe. I'll see if I can finish early. Now, he stood up mid-meeting. Gentlemen, we'll continue this tomorrow. My mother is expecting me for dinner. His business partners looked confused. This was millions on the line. Is everything all right? Is it an emergency? No emergency. My mother is cooking dinner and I'm going to be there. Because the last time I treated her invitation as optional, I almost lost her forever. He walked out. Later that evening, sitting at his mother's small kitchen table, eating jjigae and kimchi, Won-sik felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Sukja watched him with wise eyes. You left a business meeting for dinner with your mother. Your men must think you've lost your mind. Maybe I have. Or maybe I finally found it. They'll challenge you. Test whether you're still strong enough to lead. Let them. I'm strong enough to choose you over everything else. That's the only strength that matters. Sukja reached across the table and squeezed his hand. My son, you've finally come home. Here's what I can't stop thinking about. Was 6 months of change enough to make up for 2 years of dismissing his mother? Or are some betrayals too deep to fix? I'll be in the comments. Let's settle this. And if this story hit you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories about the choices that change everything.